So which one of you guys, tough guys, want to duke it out for the next one?
Can always play rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
That's dangerous.
Rock, paper, tijeras, because that means scissors.
Uh, Chuck, you had a lot to struggle to narrow it down to, so let's give
Yeah,
you a little bit more hearing. This
All
is your
right.
first. This is your debut.
that's right.
Debut,
All
yes.
right.
He's a
Well,
debutante.
yeah, I'll try to put on my pretty dress and get
I will
going with that.
I will forward all the fan mail to you, bro.
Okay, I'm jumping ahead a little bit on some of my picks because stuff that I started with in the last segment, I kind of want to get back to, and this is an odd one, but the movie I'm going to talk about is The Seven Samurai,
Mhm.
and my pick for anti-hero is actually All Seven Samurai,
All of them.
and
Not
all
not
of them.
not not the egotistical guy with the sword that's unreasonably long, played by
No,
Mifune.
no, no, not Mifune is like the one guy I will almost exempt from this because he has a background as a farmer and whatnot. But without
Why do you?
dealing,
Why? I'm curious. Why? Just real quick, you can tell me everything else. Why do you see Takashi Shimura's character as an anti-hero? I get them as a group. I understand that, but like, do
yeah,
you see him individually as having a more of a moral barometer, or maybe not?
he may individually, but I'm not dealing with them individually. I'm dealing with them
Okay.
as a whole group. And it
Okay.
is basically the way they kind of take advantage of this village. At the same time, they are doing good things for the village. They're kind of teaching them to defend themselves, and they're organizing and militarizing them against this, attack of bandits and whatnot. But they're at the same time kind of exploiting them and using them. And in the case of the youngest guy, uh, they are, he's kind of begun this affair with this one girl, and kind of, I don't know, I guess in the eyes of her father, kind of makes her damaged goods.
Mm.
But they kind of do this whole thing where they're kind of ensconced in this village and kind of exploiting them on one level or another. But what I wanted to draw with this is the fact that at the end of this movie, with the three who were left, and they're all kind of standing by the graves of their fallen comrades and whatnot, the villagers all go running by. And of course, there's the young guy who is still very infatuated with this girl, and he goes after her, and she won't give him the time of day. And the villagers all go back about their business. They're out in the rice paddies doing what they do and kind of resuming life as normal. The samurai are complete pariahs. They are no longer welcome really in the town. They're no longer accepted in the town. And they're basically on their, the beaten down Ronins who are going to have to carry on with their lives. But it seems as though with a lot of anti-heroes, there is this propensity to have them, excuse me, you could go back, and I promised I was going to go back to this. You could go back to John Wayne and the Searchers. In the end, the family all go into the house. He walks off,
Hmm.
walks off in that door shot. And you could relay that to other characters. Mad Max is another big one. Shane, I guess, on another level is one of those.
Mhm.
Uh, whatever the bright future that most of these characters get to have as a result of their work, they do not get to partake in it. They're
All right.
kind of to one level or another cast out.
Do you feel
And
that's karma? And
I don't necessarily think it's karma, but I think when you're kind of the violent person that comes in that does the work that's necessary, the dirty work that's necessary, you kind of, in a way, are a tainted character, and you don't get to partake in whatever the future is. you're kind of just left out on the margins, kind of walking away.
Well said.
And that's all, really. That's all I got with that. But I just
Well,
kind of thought about that theme for a while and thought it was kind of fascinating.
well, actually, it ran through my mind. I wasn't going to actually cover it, but I will mention in passing. Great minds think alike. Well, yours was great. Mine might be mediocre, but uh, I was thinking the whole Wild Bunch
Yeah.
are anti-heroes because I mean, they don't do anything reputable through the whole movie, but in the end, you're just like me anyway.
Yeah.
I was just like, don't die.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing, I mean, that movie is pitched so high emotionally, and it's so the whole thing about male brotherhood and bonding, and that wasn't in a lot of American Western, or maybe any at that time. And when the two main guys are, have 10 bullet holes at least each, and you finally see Holden start to kind of dissipate, like he's losing his life, and Borgnine's like, bye. And you just like, it's just like we've got to hold on, we've got to live. And then you're like, damn, this sucks. I love that movie so
Yeah.
much.
But
Yeah.
that's how they would have wanted to go out. I mean,
Yeah.
Guys
I
like
think they
that-
did it on purpose.
yeah.
Yeah. They knew they weren't getting away from that crazy general guy. So they're like,
Yeah.
why not?
Ernest
know?
Borgnine is not going to be, lying in a bed fighting for breath. I mean, he's going to go out the way he goes out.
He was fabulous in that. I'll mention my before I get to you two guys. I'll try to do a brief one. Help me if it's not. But anyway, I got this. I finally got the Blu-ray a couple of years ago, back when I could afford Blu-rays, and this is I don't know if you guys know this movie, Cutter's Way.
Yes. Yes.
1981. This is a very collectible that went out of print almost immediately on Blu-ray, but
I got
Alex Cutter is cool. Alex Cutter is the main character, and he's really one of my favorite protagonists in any movie. And I did have him specifically in mind, not just him, but he was one of the characters I specifically had in mind when I wrote the part about being anti-authoritarian, as a quality. And because he, a lot of people have compared his character to Ahab, except he's even more wounded and fucked up than Ahab physically, from, Vietnam, and that he's going to get his Moby Dick. And Moby Dick is really the system, and, this movie doesn't, it's just like The Spook is Sat by the Door. It's one of those movies that it doesn't couch anything in any kind of allegory or beat around the bush or try to find the good in it. It just tells it like it is. It's like for these people. And his best friend is named Richard Bone. He's played by Jeff Bridges. And he tells Richard, he's like, they don't care about us. They're chewing us up and spitting us out. We're gonna get ours, and the main hook is because this girl's been found murdered, and there's some circumstantial evidence that seems to tie it to this magnate named J.J. Cord, played by Stephen Elliott, who you don't really see much of until toward the end, which is very effective. And they kind of go on this little detective thing, and Richard is very reluctant. The two of them they were like lifelong friends, but like Richard came out, I don't know I can't remember if he got out of Vietnam or got out of going or just was lucky, but he's like a gigolo. Literally, he's a gigolo. So this is Jeff Bridges when he was young, and well, he's always been good looking, but he's like all golden skinned, and Alex unfortunately lost, half, he lost an eye, an arm, and a leg on one side, and he, uses a fake leg and a cane, and he basically goes and gets drunk, and he's got a quip for everything. He's got a aphorism for everything. And, John Hurt is really an actor because I can't think of any characters I've seen him play that even remotely have any of Alex Cutter's mannerisms. Like, you can do that with a lot of actors, but not in that case. Very submerged.
He never got a role like this again either. That I remember.
I know he didn't. And I
hell.
was sad when he died. But really, I mean, he seems like a kind of character who just in any moment he's on the verge of tears, on the verge of a breakdown, on the verge of trying to hurt somebody, even though he's handicapped. And so this is a way for him to direct his passion. And Richard thinks it's ridiculous. They tell another guy who they grew up with, who works at the yacht there, he thinks it's ridiculous. It gets back to the chords. Of course, they act all hoity-toity. Nobody does anything. But one woman whose sister died, and had the similar circumstances, she helps them for a little while, and Alex kind of flirts with her. And Alex has a weird marriage, and I mean, they have a code between them, him and his wife Mo. And I don't know. I don't know if you have to be married to understand it or not, because I kind of thought I got it before I got married, but definitely after I got married, like there's some things they would say to each other in front of other characters, and you think they're insulting each other, but it's like an in joke that they've had for like years and years, like a shorthand. And that I think that's a great character touch. And but the problem is, after he talks a lot, they blow up his house and Mo dies. So after that, to anybody with a shred of common sense, he's on something. But Richard is still like wishy-washy. He's like, okay, I'll try to help you do this, blah, 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 blah. And, basically at the ending, Alex decides, fuck this, and he jumps on a horse, because there's a whole equestrian stable out there with the party going on, and he jumps on a white horse and rages through the window, and says it was him, and Richard makes a choice, and his choice is he picks up the gun that Alex is holding, and by that time I think Alex is about dead, and he says, "It was you," and the guy's like, "What if it was? Like, what are you gonna do to me?" And so finally, Richard makes a choice. He pulls the fucking trigger. You don't see what happens. That's the end. But it's like, that's another one I discovered in one of those Danny Perry books, because it's like, yeah, Richard finally made that choice, because Alex makes fun of him through the movie. Like, whenever they get to talking about something serious, Richard walks away, and he goes, "Yeah, there you go, Richard, with that walk of yours, getting away from it." And he finally couldn't get away. He finally had to acknowledge, hey man, there are some evil motherfuckers in the world, and damn. But you don't get to really see what happens after his epiphany, but it's wonderful going to that point with him, with all the characters, really. But Alex, I really felt bad for, because I mean, it's just like, wow. So Kaylin, you had a third film?
I did. Did Bill have any
You
others though? Because
I
was gonna say,
I
do you
have
any
one.
other-
One.
Okay.
It's
Whatever.
more of a character. He's in a few films. It's Ito Ogami from the Lone Wolf and Cub series.
Yeah.
Just a great character, and very much an anti-hero, because he's obviously the one we're rooting for. He's another one of those people in a terrible situation, and the people he's fighting are often, but not always, bad, because he's a hitman. He's a hitman, and he will pretty much
hitman characters.
he will take anything that offers him gold. I don't know what he was collecting all this gold for. It never went anywhere in the movies. He was just constantly collecting lots and lots of gold. And I know in the comics there was a lot. In the manga there was it went on forever.
Yeah.
But this guy, oh man, first of all, apparently I have been told, I don't know if this is true, that the writer or the artist who did the Lone Wolf and Cub manga made this specifically for this actor. That
Kojima.
Yeah,
I don't know if he did or not. I haven't heard that.
He's great.
But
He's such a big guy. He does not have he does not have a swimmer's physique, let us say, but you totally believe that this guy could take on an army armed with just a couple of swords and pretty much send them back one piece at a time, as the poster said. But and he's got his kid with him. It's such a brilliant idea, but he is so much an anti-hero, and nothing more clear than in one of the very first ones, where when he decides to go on the road of vengeance, renounce all of his, beliefs, and just become a killer, he offers Daigoro, he offers his infant son the choice of a ball or a sword. knowing that the kid, being a kid, will choose the ball, and he will then kill him and send him to heaven to be with his mom and get him out of his hair. But the kid, of course, chooses the sword, and that's that. But just the fact that our hero was fully prepared to murder not just a child, his own beloved child, because having a kid when you're on the road to vengeance, that's, you got to pull off of the road and change some diapers, and oh God, I am never going to get to the end of this road of vengeance with this damn kid.
And the Road of Vengeance always has flames coming up in the opening credits.
But in a
just
classic
like pause
case
to raise your kid for a minute, and
a classic case of when life gives you lemons, make lemonades. He builds that dang baby cart, which is the Sherman tank of baby carts, and it's the thing that really, it works. It totally works. It's just an amazing device.
Oh my God,
boy! When the first one I saw, of course, was Shogun Assassin, which is part abomination and part absolute brilliance, that they took two of the films, chopped them up in a Cuisinart, and put them together in some sort of haphazard way, and let Sandra Bernhard do some of the voice work, and she's amazing. Just watching this film, and you're like, I could not believe the ultra violence. It was Monty Python's Black Knight scene played seriously. And it just goes on from there. And from that, I discovered the director of the best of the baby cart films was
Can You Miss Me?
Yes, thank you. And he did a bunch of stuff. He did one of the
he's done a lot of movies.
And he did another one that I considered doing, but the character is just.
He did Hanzo the Razor.
I was just going to say Hanzo the Razor. Okay, so an anti-hero, I guess any definition of the word. But man, oh man, I was not prepared for that one. It's like, I'm kind of used to seeing an awful lot of rapes in these films. Japanese exploitation films of that time, rape is pretty much like a musical in an Indian film. It pops up when you least expect it. But I was willing to deal with the fact that the hero is a rapist. What I wasn't prepared to deal with was the fact that he's a hero because he's a rapist. This isn't like an aberration of this guy. Oh yeah, he solves crimes and he's a rapist. No, this is his technique. This is his reason for being. This is why you rent this film. And I'm like, Japan,
and there's the modern day one. There's a modern day one.
Is there?
Rape Man. Rape Man was a superhero. I used to have,
God.
But this is the funny thing. When I ordered some of these videos, some of them I got free to review. Some of them I bought. Like I bought the baby cart at River Styx, but Rape Man was one I got free, and also Hanzo the Razor I got from somebody else, the first one. But I used to call Tom Weiser. He ran Video Search in Miami. Hugely influential in this whole scene we're all even remotely part of. I mean, and I think he died recently. If I'm correct, unfortunately, but he was married to a Japanese woman, and he said, dude, there isn't such a thing as political correctness in Japan. This just doesn't exist.
Apparently not. No.
And so just don't worry about, and I was like, that's cool. I mean, it's cool that you admit it.
Yeah. But Lone Wolf and Cub is great. But there's one of the films, he actually murders like this Buddha, and the guy's done nothing to deserve this. It's such an interesting thing watching this. My wife and I sort of just went through all of them back in the days when Netflix would actually send you DVDs in the mail. Good times, good times.
Didn't they technically still do that until very, very recently? I feel like I remember reading something in the news
that they were giving it
about
up.
them stopping mailing DVD rentals, and I was like, "Excuse me, what?"
That was when they first came up with that. I just could not believe that I was living in this wonderful world where we could just order DVDs of anything that existed and would come. Like, it didn't even occur to me that one day, basically, it would all be available over the internet or on streaming. And that's, I was just saying, this is why I think podcasts like this are valuable, because there's so much out there. There's so much available. And it's good to be able to let people know. I had never heard of that film that Kaylin said. There's so much. I turn on Netflix and it's like, oh, this looks interesting. It's a new series. No, it's not. It's been on for 12 seasons. I have never heard of it, and it was clearly geared toward me. It's about cats and zombies or something. It's like, well, this is clearly made for me. How did I not know about this? There's so much out there, more than I can see in the life I have left. So
I wanted to say, I didn't want to say real quick, when we did What is Horror, and I mentioned how the Phil Hardy book put a lot of unconventional entries. Well, there's two that I forgot to mention, the first two Kozo Okami movies. So that's where I first read about that, was in that book. And he said, the level of gore in this film is just unprecedented for a samurai movie. This is definitely horror. I don't know how I feel about that, but I do know a lot of horror fans do love that series.
It's just wonderful. It's just there's so many scenes in there that are just like you're just standing there with your mouth open and
yeah, that's incredible. So Kaylin, go for it.
All right. So last but not least for my picks for anti-heroes panel is Iñárritu's Amores Perros. So this one is a phenomenal film. It is a must-see for me. This one was introduced to me, actually, as was the previous one that I talked about, by one of my big mentors in my life, for which I am eternally grateful. So this is part of Iñárritu's trilogy of death. It's succeeded by 2 additional films, which are 21 Grams and Babel. So this film has like 3 different stories kind of going on at the same time. They're all tied together through one event, which is a car crash that occurs in Mexico City. And when I first brought this one up, Henry hadn't seen it in a minute. He was just like, okay, but which character are you thinking about for the anti-hero? And I was just like, I mean, there's a couple of them, I feel. One that's very obvious is El Chivo, who is another hitman type of character. Gosh, there's a lot of these coming up today. But the one that I find more interesting as an anti-hero, just because he's not kind of your stereotypical anti-hero, is the character Octavio. And so Octavio is just like this really, really nice dude, regular guy, and he is in love with his sister-in-law. So of course he wants to save up money, run away with her, and all of this stuff, which sounds like he's just totally breaking the bro code, right? But he has his reasons. His brother is abusive as hell, and that's not okay. So the woman that he's in love with, actually does either love him or at least want to use him to get out of the abusive situation that she finds herself in, which, fair. Don't blame her. Completely reasonable as far as I'm concerned. But so that's what Octavio wants to do. That his goal is to basically help Susana, his sister-in-law, get away from his brother and run off with her, live happily ever after. That's complicated. So what Octavio does in order to try to save up money is he gets involved in dogfighting. And that inherently for me is something that makes you almost automatically a villain. It's one of those things like animal cruelty, sexual violence, and violence towards children. I'm just like, no, unforgivable, period. From my own personal moral state. Because you're hurting people in a very violating way, or you're hurting someone, including animals, that can't defend themselves against you in these situations. So it's absolutely horrible. Also, I don't know her exact history, but my dog clearly has some kind of abuse history. It's probably not dog fighting. She doesn't have scars or anything like that. But just the fact that somebody hurt my baby is just like,
sure, I know.
I'll fight you. So yeah, that's how he gets into this whole situation. He also tries to get his brother killed, as one does when one has an abusive, awful brother. And what ends up happening is he and his brother end up there's all of this stuff going on with terrorist groups and the cartels and the dogfighting rank and all of that. And long story short, the two of them end up chained to a wall with a gun between them. And it's like, it's one or the other. It's bananas. I'm trying to keep this relatively short in summary, to talk more about the character, but and then it just kind of leaves you there for a while and transfers to the next bit of the story that seems totally unrelated until the car crash happens. Basically, you've got this couple that's
right.
in their apartment. They have this very, very small dog who gets like stuck in I think it was like in the floor or the wall or something like that. It's been a minute since I've seen this as well. But the woman is trying to rescue this dog. She ends up getting stuck. Her leg gets fucked up. It gets gangrene. It has to get amputated. And Iñárritu is just like, we're just gonna like go for all of the gross, disgusting things in this movie, pulling no punches whatsoever. And then ultimately it transfers to the car crash again. And then El Chivo, the hitman character, witnesses this car crash. He's been kind of in the background a little bit during the other stories, particularly Octavio's story. And he ends up basically taking Octavio's money and also the dog that he was using for dogfighting. He's got a tragic past as well. He's got a daughter that he wants to have in his life again, get back in touch with her. But because of all of the situations that he's found himself in, helping with guerrilla movements and being a hitman, that's easier said than done. So he ends up he's thinking about killing the dog and putting it out of its misery pretty much, and then he decides against it and basically ends up taking the dog in, and he names the dog Negro, or Black. And basically, you know, it's open to interpretation why the name is that, but it's kind of like the dog is like marked too. The dog has like this awful past too. This dog has done violence too, and it's like they have this relatable moment. It's kind of like the inverse of John Wick, I guess. You kill a bunch of people, then you get the dog.
Yeah, there you go.
And ultimately, you know, the car crash is what gets Octavio as well. I can't remember. I think he might have actually died in the crash. I don't remember. But his brother ends up getting killed during a bank robbery that he's doing with his whole business situation. So he ultimately ends up getting killed. But I just find it really interesting that this film has like two really good anti-hero characters that are very, very different from each other, because like El Chivo is definitely this kind of like classic anti-hero, exactly what you'd expect. Octavio is just this really nice dude who just wants to help this woman that he loves, and you know, end up with her, but he does all of these horrible things trying to make it happen, and then in the end he still doesn't win. So there's just a lot going on in that film.
That's
but
awesome.
Yeah, just
interesting.
I didn't remember a lot about it. So I wanted to say, so we've each done 3, and only reason I'm saying it is because I'm recording this on my phone. So I'm down to like 15%. So, but the timing's great. Everybody got to talk about 3 movies.
We did all right.
Can I just say one thing real quick, Henry? Please,
sure.
please, because I want to see these guys' faces and any reactions from our wonderful fans. Can you do the like information drop that you did to me yesterday about a female anti-hero we both know and love? Because my God.
Tell them now.
Yeah.
Tell them right now. Okay, so there's a major female anti-hero in film and television character. Everyone in the world practically knows this character. She's iconic, but she's definitely an anti-heroine, is Laura Palmer, because you know, you watch Fire Walk with Me, and she's not like Dale. Dale's, you know, the good guy. She's out there, you know, whoring around and in high school and doing all kinds of drugs, but she's the one. She's like mystically ordained to be the one, we find out. Even and despite anything she did in life, and to me that is really true redemption. I mean, it's well, even show an angel in the movie. Lynch isn't subtle about it, you know?
No.
Lynch subtle?
Yeah, really. So yeah, that thanks. I appreciate the fact that you appreciated that.
I really did. Like, we were talking on like Messenger of all things, and like this wasn't even a verbal conversation. And he's just like, oh, by the way, it took me like weeks to realize this, but Laura Palmer is the anti-hero of her own story, and I'm just like, what? And I was just like, no, man, you're right. Like, absolutely hit it. I never thought of that either. And it was just one of those moments of like, my mind has been blown. This needs to be shared with the world. And probably there's going to be people watching this. Like, it took you this long. In my defense, I did watch a few years ago, but
Kayla, I have no sense of time, so I forget how long ago things were. But did you watch Twin Peaks when it first came out?
No. I just watched it like a few years ago. Twin Peaks was out in the 90s.
And you probably were you out in the 90s? I have no idea.
I was a kid. I was a kid in the 90s. Okay. It was a little mature for me.
That was another one. That was like the X-Men comic. When I took a chance. I knew who David Lynch was. I liked his stuff. I watched the first episode. I'm like, well, my life has changed. This is not like anything else. And even my ex-wife, we didn't always see eye to eye on entertainment. She was like, this is some amazing stuff. And
well, Twin Peaks is one of those things that was just kind of on my like mental, I should really check this out at some point because a lot of people have said I would like it kind of things. And then somebody that I was dating at the time a few years ago was just like, no, but really I'm making you watch this. And we watched the entire thing. I can't remember if I watched Fire Walk with Me with her, if I watched it on my own later. But yeah, no, just God, I love that show, and I can't believe it took me so long to finally watch it, but I got there.
Fire Walk with Me for real is like in my top 5 favorite movies, like of all time.
It's really good.
Nothing's gonna bump it.
I'll never forget going to see that in an empty theater. There was nobody there. There was me.
Oh my God.
I wanted to see it in the theater.
I love it when those magical moments happen.
Oh my God! We had 3 choices. And she was like, which one of these movies do you want to see? The Blade Runner, the director's cut, Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me, or Hellraiser 3? And I'm like, well, I don't know. You decide, I guess. I think it was like her birthday or something. Yeah. And so we went to that fucking Hellraiser
3. I was just gonna say. Yep.
All right. I gotta go, everybody.
Sorry.
But we'll talk soon, okay? Everybody did a great job.
Love you all.
Awesome session, guys. This was really fun.
It was good seeing you all again.
You too. You take care now.
Take care, guys.